Hi. Uh, Thank you for the introduction. My name is Eric Keston. I am on the procedural compliance work group team with DPI, and I'm a school administration consultant along with my co-presenter Sharon. If you'd like to introduce yourself real quick.
Hi, I'm Sharon Madsen. I have the same title as Eric. We work on the same work group together. Happy to be here with you this morning.
Great, thank you. So we have just 30 minutes here, and we will have a short presentation for you, as it says, independent charter schools and special education. And I will start, and Sharon and I will take turns presenting the different information to you. What we are planning on presenting today is an overview, it's just the basics. Excuse me, evaluations. I apologize. Free appropriate public education and IEP development is what we will be focusing on. And we're going not a deep dive, but just sort of touching on all these topics to make you aware of them. At the end of the presentation, we'll circle back and we have links to different resources, and you'll be getting the presentation afterwards. So with that being said, I'm doing basics first. And basically, independent charter schools and special education, as you see on the screen, although exempt from a lot of state laws, as you know, independent charter schools must comply with federal laws such as the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA. And in addition to that, which is the federal law, there are also state laws around special education. Independent charter schools may not deny admission to students based on their disability and may not deny admission to a student with a disability solely because of a need for special education or related services. And with that, I will do our first handoff to Sharon.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about special education evaluations. So this next slide just highlights some of the responsibilities in terms of special education evaluation. At the very beginning of an evaluation always starts with a referral. And basically that's just a request in writing that someone wants the child to be looked at and considered for having a potential disability, and then to determine if the student needs special education. So the language in the law says any person who reasonably believes that a child is a child with a disability may refer the child to a local education agency. If a parent makes a verbal request and they state that they want their child evaluated, that does open up the floor for some conversation. And if, they're very insistent that they want their child to be evaluated, it is then the school's responsibility to let them know what the process and procedures are. So that might be directing them to the appropriate forms used by the school when they want to make a referral of a student. So just the following individuals highlighted here, these are the individuals that are required by law to make referrals if they believe a child might have a disability. If it's a teacher or another school staff making the referral, they do have the duty to inform the parents that they're going to make the referral. And of course, parents can make that referral as well. I just want to highlight something, especially with the medical and mental health care professionals. There are instances where you might receive a prescription for an IEP or evaluation on a prescription pad from a doctor. This could be really frustrating for parents because they think, okay, I have this prescription now from my family doctor, and school, you need to turn around and write that IEP because this is what my doctor said. The student still has to go through the evaluation process per federal and state law. And there is a timeline attached to that that we'll get into, and that can be very frustrating for parents to understand. Oftentimes they'll call DPI and say, I think the school is messing with me. No, we're not. This is what's required under IDEA. Yes, your child might be diagnosed with ADHD or autism by a mental health care professional or, the family doctor, whatever. But there is different criteria that a student would have to meet in order to determine if they have a disability and if they do require special education. So we'll get into that a little bit more on the next few slides. So this is the evaluation timeline, and I'll walk you through this because it is a little bit confusing. If you just Google evaluation timeline on DPI's website, this graphic comes up. When I was a case manager, I found it really helpful, and I just kind of had it tacked to my bulletin board just to keep me aware of the dates. And important to remember, the timeline doesn't stop for holiday breaks or for summer break. It goes through the entire calendar year. So if you receive a referral the day before winter break, you're still counting those days over winter break. But again, we'll talk about that in just a second. So when the school receives a referral, you have 15 business days. So that means Monday through Friday. That part of it excludes the weekends, federal and state holidays. So Thanksgiving is considered a holiday. Black Friday, the day after when we're all rushing out to the stores at 5 a.m., that is not a holiday, even though you may have off from school. So you have 15 business days to provide the parents with a receipt of referral. If you, as the school, have initiated that evaluation, then you have a notice that you would have to send the parents that the child was referred by the school and that you're going to start that evaluation. So during that 15 business day timeline, that gives the team a chance to review any existing data. So you're looking at data from report cards, statewide assessment, district-wide assessment, classroom-based assessment, getting information from teachers, work samples, basically whatever information you have on the student. Then the IEP team gets to decide if you need to conduct any additional assessments as part of the evaluation. So when I say additional assessments, we're talking about formal standardized assessments that cover a variety of areas. So if you feel that you don't need to do any additional assessments, there's a notice that you'd send home to parents, and then you continue to proceed with the evaluation. If the team does determine that additional assessments are needed, there's a different form in which you need to list the assessments that you're going to be doing. You have to obtain parental consent before you can begin administering any of those assessments. And then there's no timeline for parents to return that form to you. So if you send it out on, I don't know, a Monday and they return it to you on a Tuesday, that's great. You can go right ahead with that evaluation. If you'd send it to them on Monday and they don't get it back to you for 2 weeks, that time, I guess, you're kind of like in limbo. So you still have to wait for that consent to come back before you begin any of that assessing, before you begin any of those assessments. However, then once that form is received, that's when your 60 calendar day timeline starts to begin. So calendar days mean all the days. You're going straight through. So over the next 60 days, you conduct those assessments, you gather all of that information, you're holding a meeting then discussing the results of those assessments. That would be your evaluation meeting. And then you're making a determination as to whether or not the student meets disability category and whether or not they require special education. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. Next slide, Eric. So this just highlights all the different disability categories that a student may qualify for. DPI has a web page and a form, tons of forms for each of these categories. Again, if you just search any of these terms on our website, you can find those pages and kind of look through what these all involve. So in order for a student to receive special education, there's two pieces to this. So once you've reviewed all of that evaluation data, you're answering two questions. First, does the student meet educational eligibility in at least one disability area, and that adversely affects their educational performance? So we have had instances where a student may meet the disability criteria, say in the area of autism. They might have significant delays in communication and social skills, but then that brings you to the second question. As a result of the disability, does the child need specially designed education to meet their disability related needs? Sometimes the answer to this question is yes. Yep, we can see that there are really significant delays that are impacting the student's ability to access the general education curriculum. They need some additional support through special education, and that's done through their IEP. Other times, again, you might have a student that meets criteria in a disability area, but they're actually able to navigate their environment and to participate in the general education curriculum with very minimal or zero support. So yes, again, it is possible. You might answer yes to the first question and then no to the second. However, if both of these are yes, then you would proceed to the next step, and that would be developing an IEP. So just an important note here too, if a student doesn't meet eligibility requirements, you can direct parents to look to a 504 plan. What this is if a student has a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities, they can be eligible for a 504 accommodation plan. This is not done through special education. Typically, your school psychologist has a good understanding of a 504 plan, but the 504 then basically allows that person to have some accommodations that would enable them to access the general education curriculum.
So next, I will be talking about free appropriate public education. As you see on the screen, this is often shortened to the acronym FAPE. So you might hear the term FAPE. And so FAPE ensures that students with unique needs and disabilities are given an educational experience comparable to those without those unique needs and disabilities. So students with disabilities are expected to be educated with students without disabilities as much as it's appropriate. The IEP team creates the individual education program, IEP, assigning different professionals to various tasks that provide that special education and related students for the student. Sorry. So first question, of course, is what is FAPE? So FAPE is defined by the IDEA, means special education and related services that are provided at the public expense under public supervision and direction. So it shouldn't be just because a student has a disability, their education should not be any more expensive. There shouldn't be, if there's costs, if they're doing extracurricular activities like hockey or something like that, and the hockey team has these other costs for uniforms or equipment or things like that, students will pay for that. But if it's anything that other students would just normally get, then that's what should be free. And that should be under the public expense. Of course, it has to meet the standards of the department. It has to meet IDEA, and everything has to be provided in conformity with the IEP, which again is developed by the IEP team. So all children with disabilities for whom independent charter schools are responsible are provided a free appropriate public education. A couple points around that is it must be available to all students with disabilities ages 3 through 21 enrolled in a public school district. A couple of pieces around the 21. So there are certain circumstances such as graduation. So if a student graduates, that's when that responsibility ends before 21 years of age. So if a student graduates at 18 years old, then there's no more responsibility that you would have for that student. Now, if the student, it's not the day the student turns 21. So like I have a son who has a birthday in March, and let's say he turned 21 in March and was still in school, it doesn't end at that moment. It ends, the responsibility ends at the end of that term. So you just don't have to go to the end of that term. This will include also students get FAPE, students with disabilities who have been suspended or expelled from school. Services are not automatically stopped because the student is removed from school. So after a child with a disability has been removed from their current placement for over 10 school days in the same school year, any additional removal, the independent charter school provides services, although it could be in another setting. And the services are to enable the child to continue to participate in the general education curriculum and to progress towards meeting the goals set out in the child's IEP. So FAPE, districts must provide FAPE to each student with a disability by developing a program based, again, on the student's unique needs that are reasonably calculated. I'm saying it because this is the terms, reasonably calculated to enable a student to make progress in light of their circumstances. Everything has to be documented in the IEP, which would mean the special design instruction that Sharon was just talking about, any supports they might need, extra time taking a test, extra time on exams. Maybe a lot of times what we'll see is a student might get overwhelmed with anxiety or different things like that. This, again, is determined through the evaluation process. And instead of giving the student all 5 steps of an assignment right away, it might be giving them 1 step at a time. And those are all supports that will be documented in the IEP. And then, of course, implementing that program as it's written out in the IEP. So for most students, this means an IEP is designed to allow that student to progress from grade to grade with their same age peers. If that's not possible, the IEP should be appropriately ambitious in light of the child's circumstances. So wherever that child is, it needs to be challenging for them. And goals may differ, but each and every child should have the chance to meet, again, challenging objectives. So LEA responsibility, independent charter schools as an LEA must ensure the provision of a free, so you're responsible for this, free appropriate public education, and this includes with virtual schools. You're responsible for developing the IEP that meets FAPE and then implementing that IEP.
All right, so we're going to get a little bit into IEP development. The next slide highlights the required IEP team participants. With any IEP team meeting, you always want to make sure that these people are present. That would include the student's parent, the special education teacher, at least one general education teacher that's working with a student. So at the elementary level, that's a lot easier because students are typically with one general education teacher throughout the entire day. When you get to middle school and high school, it can be any of the teachers that the student is working with. What usually makes sense is if the student is receiving specially designed instruction in an area such as math or reading, you might want to consider then including that student's regular ed math or English teacher to be part of the IEP team meeting, because they can then speak to what they're seeing in the general education classroom. The other key member there is your local education agency representative. The definition of that team member is that needs to be a person who's qualified to provide or supervise the provision of special education. They have to have knowledge about general education curriculum, and they also need to have knowledge about and be authorized by the local education agency to commit the available resources of the local education agency. So you want someone in that role that knows what resources are available within the district and can be able to tell the IEP team whether or not those resources are something available to the student per their IEP. Other key people that you need to have there, people who can interpret the instructional implication of evaluation results. So if there's been any recent testing done, you want people knowledgeable in the areas of those assessments. So for example, if the student has just completed some speech and language assessments, you're going to want the speech and language pathologist there to speak about those assessments, because chances are your special education teacher is not going to be able to speak to those things. Anyone else with knowledge or special expertise about the child can participate. So in some instances, we'd have the school counselor come sit in on an IEP team meeting if they were working with the student. Sometimes it can just be an adult staff member that the student has really bonded with that can speak about what they're seeing with the student. That can be like a para-educator. I've had a gym teacher come to an IEP team meeting before, but just all of those people who are invited to the IEP team meeting on the school side, they need to be listed on the invitation that goes home to parents. Parents, on the other hand, they are allowed to bring in whomever they like. So sometimes it can be additional family members, sometimes an advocate may pop into an IEP team meeting. And also we say, whenever appropriate, and I like to think as early as possible, that students should be part of their own IEP team meetings as well. This allows them to understand what an IEP is. They start to develop better self-advocacy skills. And I think the sooner we get them involved, the better. And certainly by age 14, when the IEP team is discussing transition services, then you are required by law to invite the student to their own IEP team meeting, but they of course have the opportunity to say whether or not they would like to participate. If you have never laid eyes on an IEP before, it can be a little daunting. There's a lot of pages, a lot of words. I'm just going to break down for you the main components of what an IEP includes. You're going to see present levels in an IEP. That's just a statement, not a statement, it's more than a statement. It's information about how the student is currently doing with their academic as well as functional performance. So with the academic piece, you might find information from recent district-wide, statewide, classroom-based assessments, observations from teachers, information about whether or not they've met their previous IEP goals in different areas. And then in terms of functional performance, that's a section to list information about how the student is doing in terms of behavior, social skills, activities of daily living, if they're receiving any related services in speech language, occupational therapy, physical therapy. Often we see that information under functional performance. And with each of those sections, we always want to see some kind of a comparison in relationship to how the student is performing in comparison to their same age or grade level peers. The effects of disability section, it just identifies how the student's disability affects their academic achievement and functional performance. So this is what the IEP team observes the student is having difficulty accessing, engaging, and making progress in the general education curriculum, instruction, and environment. So this is usually just a brief paragraph of, how the disability is impacting the student. Disability-related needs are the unique individual needs of the student. Basically, the team is looking to see what skills is the student lacking, what do they need to develop, and what will that allow them to further access in terms of the general education curriculum and environment. Each IEP needs annual goals. A goal has to address at least one disability-related need. Sometimes it can address multiple disability-related needs. A goal has a statement, it has a baseline, so where the student is currently performing, and then a level of attainment, so what you expect the student to be doing within 1 year from the start of that IEP. There's also a section to list how progress is going to be monitored, and then also when progress reports are going to be sent home to parents. And at a minimum, I believe our law says that progress reports have to be sent home as often as report cards are going home. Services are then the services that the student will need to work towards those annual IEP goals. So that can be in the form of supplementary aids and services, which is more or less your list of accommodations and supports that the student is provided with. It also includes specially designed instruction. So what are those services that are going to help them work towards their annual IEP goals? And that can look like instruction and reading, writing, math, but it can also include things like instruction and self-regulation or social skills, those sorts of things. And then related services. So services that the student might need to access special education, such as speech and language, occupational therapy, and physical therapy. So just a couple things to remember about a student's IEP. The acronym Individualized Education Program, I think, speaks for itself. An IEP should be individualized, and it is based on the student's unique needs. It has to be, like Eric said, appropriately ambitious in light of the student's circumstances and reasonably calculated. So at the start of each school year, students with an IEP, that should be already in place, and IEPs have to be implemented as written. So if you had a student come in and meet eligibility criteria in February of the previous school year, that IEP is going to carry from February of that school year to February of the next school year. So when they return to you in September, you should be able to pick up that IEP and just kind of hit the ground running and be implementing all of those supplementary aids and services, specially designed instruction, whatever is in there. I would just like to highlight here it is really important to talk to your case managers, service providers about documenting their services. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. What I would do is I would just take my lesson plans and I would just write down the initials of the students who were present when I was delivering specially designed instruction to them. If they were absent, I would just write absent. If there was something else that interrupted our learning, so a fire drill or tornado drill, field trip, I would just make a note of that. It was just there then in case if a parent or an administrator ever had a question, I had that documentation right in front of me so I can say, yes, I have been delivering services as they're written in the IEP.
So we just have just a couple more minutes. So I'll talk about behavior real quick and then show you our resources. So under the requirements of the IDEA, if the student's behavior impedes their learning or the learning of others, the IEP team must, its requirement, consider use of positive behavior intervention supports and other strategies to address that behavior. The interventions and supports should capitalize on the students' strengths and accomplishments, and it's designed to just to help and support them as they move through the day. They should be written in the IEP with enough detail that that the family knows and all the staff supporting the student know exactly what to expect and what's happening and who's responsible for it. Under this, failure to address behavioral needs of a student with a disability can result in a denial of faith and denial of placement in the least restrictive environment. And addressing behavioral needs may include developing goals, providing specially designed instruction related services, everything we've talked about. It could fall under all of those things. Also, if there are issues, I mentioned earlier that they might have to provide issues, services, students been removed for more than 10 days. If a student's being removed, there's other issues like that. That probably says they need positive behavior supports they're not getting, like they might not have them, or the ones they're getting aren't working. So you want to go back as an IEP team to meet and go back to the drawing board just to see if you can fix them a little bit. So with that being said, I just want to highlight these are resources. Again, all of these are links, just like I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation for those who came in while we've been talking, that will be sent. This presentation will go out after this training. The links, when Sharon was talking about the different disability categories, all of those are also links to those DPI pages she referenced. You can find the information right away, and all of these are links to different things. And as Sharon mentioned, we do not do 504. That's covered under federal law, but these are resources where you can find information about that. And here's additional resources. We are pretty much at time, so I'm sorry we don't have time for questions. I don't think. But yeah,
No.
that's what we have. Thank you for your time. Thanks, Alexander.
Yeah, thanks, Sharon. Thanks, Eric. We appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Okay, have a good day. Bye.
Bye now. Helen, are you able to share your screen?
Yes, I think I should be if that will allow me to. I was going to say my presentation time's out about 6 minutes if they wanted to answer questions for just a couple minutes, but I understand that there is a lot going on, so I don't know if that makes sense or not. All right. Let's see. Okay, can folks see that screen?
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right. I'm going to try to keep this really simple. So what I'm showing you here is the main landing page for the Special Needs Scholarship Program. So good morning, everyone. My name is Helen Leong. I am the School Administration Consultant at DPI for the Special Needs Scholarship Program. The Special Needs Scholarship Program, or SNSP, allows a student with a disability who meets certain eligibility requirements to receive a state-funded scholarship to attend a participating private school. Please note that this is a different program than the choice programs, so we are entirely separate. Because independent charter schools can develop IEPs for students with disabilities, you may be contacted by a private school asking that you verify a student meets the eligibility criteria for this program. So because of that, Alex was kind enough to extend to me the invitation to get a chance to just meet with you and briefly talk about the program and what you might be expected to do. So what you're seeing right now is our main landing page for the SNSP. You can get here by going to the search bar at the top of DPI's website and typing the words special needs. Any of our web pages should be in the top of your search results. Once you're on any of our SNSP web pages, there are some resources that I want to make you aware of. First of all, every page at the bottom has my contact information. So that email address, snsp@dpi.wi.gov, or that 188 line, I'm the person you're reaching. So there's just one consultant at DPI for this program, and it's me. So I'm the person that you're contacting. I do ask that folks use that email address and that phone number because if for some reason I'm out of the office unexpectedly, that allows someone else at DPI to respond to your inquiry. When you're looking at this page, we do have a menu at the top left-hand side. And if you click on that first link on it, you'll see that there's an SNSP frequently asked questions for public school districts. This may not all impact you, but it does provide some guidance you might find helpful if you are asked to verify a student's eligibility for the program. So that's one of the resources that we have available on our page. So it can provide guidance for this LEA verification process. And that's what I want to talk about for the next couple of minutes. So when a student applies for the SNSP, they must have an IEP or services plan that was developed by an LEA. So you are an LEA, and so this could come up as you are working as an independent charter school. So if that student decides to apply to a private school that participates in the special needs scholarship program, and the family decides to apply to the SNSP, they would write on their student application the LEA that developed the student's most recent IEP. So that could be your school. And when this private school is processing that application, part of that process is that the private school sends an email to the LEA to verify the student meets the eligibility criteria. So what is that eligibility criteria? The LEA must determine whether, one, the student has an IEP that is being implemented as of the date application received, which should be included in the email that you get, or two, that the student has an IEP that was developed no earlier than 3 years prior to September 15th of the school term they apply. Don't panic. I'm going to explain that in a minute. And that the student has not had a more recent reevaluation since the plan was developed that determined that they no longer have a disability. So for example, in the 25-26 school year, if the student has an IEP that was developed no earlier than September 15, 2022, and the student has not had a more recent reevaluation that determined that they no longer had a disability, then the student would meet those eligibility criteria. So the page I'm showing you right now includes that 25-26 eligibility criteria right here at the very top of the page. So there are these two options for eligibility. And that is what the LEA is being asked to verify. So to respond to this verification request, the LEA would reply to the email if the student does meet it and attach a copy of the student's IEP, and that goes back to the private school. If the student does not, the LEA would reply to the email and state that the student does not. all of the instructions that I've just talked to you about, that eligibility criteria, the date application received, all of what you're supposed to do in response is included in that LEA verification email. So you should be able to read the email and have all of the information that you need in order to make that determination and instructions on how to respond to that email. If you get one of these emails, feel free to go to our webpage and contact me. My information's at the bottom of every webpage. That email should also include contact information for the private school that's contacting you and requesting it. So you can reach out to them just to double check what they're looking for you and any questions you might have, particularly about that particular student's LEA verification, if it's not clear to you how to respond. The other thing I just wanted to mention is that email should also include a link to the frequently asked questions that I just showed you how to get to on our webpage. So, like I said, that email should have some helpful resources if you do get one of these and you're looking to figure out how to respond. And that is all I wanted to talk to you about today. Just in case you get one of these LEA verification emails, you understand that that does apply to you as an LEA and how to respond. And if you're still unsure, feel free to reach out and ask me any questions. And that's it. That's all I got, Alex.
Okay, thanks, Helen. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Unless anyone has any questions for Helen, I'm going to reach out to Courtney and make sure that we're good to go. Give me just a second, y'all.
Yep, and it might be a good time if you need to step away for 2 minutes. We won't have any content for 2 minutes here.
I have a quick question, Ms. Helen. So my understanding is that the requests for verification can come in at any time. So it doesn't mean that the student who is transferring over was the previous year. It could be 5, 10 years down the line. That request can come in if they transfer to a private school that participates.
That's true. In theory, it could be 5 to 10 years. Typically, students are reevaluated every 3 years. And if the student's IEP was developed that long ago, like 5 or 10 years ago, then they wouldn't meet the eligibility criteria anymore. So you could respond to let the private school know that the IEP is just too old, and they no longer meet that eligibility criteria. But what's more likely in that scenario is that the child has since gone to a different LEA and most likely had another IEP developed since the one you did 5 or 10 years ago. But you are correct. There's no application period for this program, so students can come and go into the program at any time during the school year. So that's a great clarification.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All right.
Helen. And it
Thank
looks like
you.
we'll just be sitting here for a couple of minutes waiting for Courtney if anybody has another question or just want to take a little break.
I have a suspicion that Courtney has been pulled into this big leadership training.
Ah, okay.
So let's call an audible, and I will go ahead and present the independent charter school stuff, and we will figure out what we're going to do this afternoon when we get there.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, let me see if I can't share my screen. Now, let's see. Like Aaron, Zoom is not my native tongue, so you'll have to forgive me if I botch this. As I'm currently doing, because I don't know what I'm trying to do. I want to share this, right? We'll find out. Okay, can y'all see my screen? How's it look?
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, we see your
yeah, and does it
PowerPoint.
look better if I do this?
It's about the same because we still see the like
You don't see
sidebar.
you still see the sidebar?
Yeah.
Well, that's now
Or we see
that's
like the next slide, you know?
interesting. You see
I see like the big one and then the little next
the
slide
little
to the
one next
side.
to it?
Mm-hmm.
What the heck? Nope. Nope, that's not what I want to do. Well, y'all, I apologize. Let's try this again. Now y'all see this,
Mm-hmm.
and you see these little things I'm clicking on over here.
Yeah.
And if I go to, oh, let's see. Courtney says she's slipping out in about 5 minutes for that meeting. That'll give me 5 minutes to figure this out. That'll save us time this afternoon.
What if you go to the slideshow option up at the top? Maybe that would work.
Where's my slideshow option up at the top? This thing?
No,
Ooh,
no,
go back.
What'd that do?
that just did the
Same
same
thing
thing
as
as last
before.
time.
Yeah.
Well, let's end that slideshow.
It's next to your record, record, and your animations.
Yep. It's
And the
Oh,
bottom,
I see now. Okay. I don't want to rehearse that. That
not
would have been a
now.
good idea. That would have been a good idea
yeah, try that first one. Yep.
from beginning. How about
Oh,
now?
interesting. No?
Still popping up that way?
Yep.
What a goofy thing. Well, by the time I figure this
Oh,
out,
maybe
Courtney will be here.
display settings. Why don't you go to display settings?
What if I do this? How about now? Does that
There you
work?
go.
Yep, there we
Yay.
go.
Cool. Okay, just in time for Courtney to be here.
I'll watch for her, Alex, and I'll just interrupt if she pops in while you're chatting, but you just keep going otherwise.
Good deal. Okay, everyone. So independent charter schools, that's what y'all are, and we are a pretty flexible group. So here's some basics about independent charter schools. A lot of you already know this because you've been doing this work or preparing to do this work for quite some time. But in charter schools, all charter schools, independent or otherwise, are exempt from all portions of chapters 115 to 121, that's the education statutes, where they're not explicitly referenced. And further, an independent charter school becomes its own local education agency. So there's a distinction in statute between 2R and 2X independent charter schools. There is no difference in what you're paid. There is a difference in the source and method of those payments. So on the back end, that really matters to us at DPI. For you and your students, it's less important whether or not you're a 2R or a 2X because all of the obligations, all of those things that you find in statute that apply to an independent charter school apply to both a 2R and a 2X equally. Further, there is a distinction between legacy authorizers and new authorizers. And that is something that, just like being a 2R or 2X, is sort of irrelevant to you in the work you do day to day. It makes a difference based on where your funding comes from. I see Courtney has just entered.
Yeah.
Hi, Courtney, can you hear us? Let's see. I'm gonna exit this.
Hi, Courtney. Welcome.
Hey, Sarah.
Alex was just filling in for a few minutes with some of his ICS overview stuff, but I think we can, as much time as you have, we have time for you.
Awesome. Thank you all. I was in another meeting and just stepped out, so I'm sorry if I'm a little bit late. It's so good to be with you all. I wanted to start by saying I am such a strong supporter of charter schools. We have a charter school in Cambridge, which is where I live and served on the school board. And my daughter went to that charter school. It's a place-based 8th through 12th grade charter school. And she graduated 2 years ago. And every time she comes home from college, she drives from Cambridge up to Bayfield, Wisconsin to visit her teacher, Miss Emmerich. And Miss Emmerich is still such a special part of our family, and the connections and friendships that Ada made at Koshkonong trails have really served her well in life. So I'm really grateful for charter schools and being part of the educational landscape in Wisconsin. And I know that it is such hard work to stand up charter schools. So thank you all for standing up the work. Thank you for your commitment to the kids who go to the schools. And I'm here to talk specifically about what special education looks like in charter schools and the way in which you'll hear from us at the Department of Public Instruction as it relates to special education and what it means. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I have a slide deck. Alex, do you want me to share my screen, or are you sharing the screen generally for folks?
No, you can go ahead and share your screen, and that'll give you the freedom to click through at your own pace.
Awesome. Would love to do that. Okay, so let's go ahead and share my screen. Give me just a second. While I'm doing that, what I can definitely tell you all is that I started in special education because this is a commitment that is important to me personally. I had an uncle who was institutionalized because of his disabilities. And he was institutionalized in Texas in about the late 60s and early 70s, when that's what we knew what to do with folks who had disabilities. And it was not a response, it was not a way of caring for each other that's in alignment with really, I think, anyone's values today. And so when I think about where we've come so far in so many ways in terms of supporting and creating systems to care for folks who, as my friend Vaughn says, moves through the world differently. I have two daughters who have disabilities, and they have been integrated with their peers. They have learned alongside their peers. And when I say that, that includes Ada at her charter school, where there were 3 kids in her class. And so I know that it can be done on small scales and it can be done on large scales, and it's such a different place. And at the same time, we have so far to go. And what I mean by that is that when we look at the data for kids who are learning in schools through an individualized education program, or IEP, we know that their outcomes are not the same as other kids. They are, and I'm going to share my screen just now as soon as I can get to my screen. Hold on. I'm having trouble finding my actual presentation because I'm on one screen instead of my usual two. But when we look at our data in Wisconsin, we have gaps. We have gaps based on disability status and based on race. And those are 2 areas that federal special education law, which is law that all charter schools are required to follow, pay particular attention to. So when we look to see, the data, and here we go. I'm going to share my screen. Almost. When we look at the data, this is data related to kids with IEPs compared to kids without IEPs. So this is English language arts performance in grades 4th, 8th, and 12th and 11th. So we aggregated all students with and without IEPs in English, and this is a comparison. And so we're looking primarily at the left-hand bar of this graph that says, in general, students who are moving through school without an IEP are 60% of them are proficient or advanced in terms of English language arts, compared to the 18% of kids with IEPs. So there's about a 40 percentage point gap in proficiency for students with disabilities compared to their peers. And we see persistent and consistent gaps in performance based on race as well. And what this chart shows is that same distribution of whether students are meeting or not meeting proficiency in English language arts, disaggregated by race, and we see wide variability with about 60% of students who identify as white meeting expectations on tests compared to ranges from the next closest group of students based on race would be multiracial or Asian. And then what we see in terms of the gap between white students and Black students is a 43 percentage point gap. And what we also know is that gap in particular between Black and white students is the largest gap in the nation. And we've had that unfortunate and painful distinction for decades between the gap between white and Black students in Wisconsin. And so what federal special education law does is it addresses those two areas of gaps. And it addresses those two areas of gaps in a couple of different ways. It said one of the ways is that federal law requires state education agencies to collect data on students with disabilities and students without disabilities, but in particular, students with disabilities, and crunch it in a whole lot of different ways. And after crunching it, then every school district in the state of Wisconsin, and this includes independent charter schools, every year receives a report, which is called the Local Education Agency, or LEA report. And what that report does is it shares data back with the LEA on students with disabilities in key areas that we know make a difference in terms of outcomes for students with IEPs. So for example, we look at graduation rates, we look at participation and performance in state tests, we look at where students are learning. Are they learning most of the time with their general ed peers? Are they being pulled out most of the time? We look at things like, what does it look like for their transition from high school to after graduation to the world of college, career, and community? And so we take all of that data and we create about a 20-page report for each LEA. So you all will receive these reports. And that report happens as part of what we call the Joint Federal Notification Packet. And so that Joint Federal Notification Packet is a packet that comes preliminarily in February. And in February, we upload it into the Secure Access File Exchange. So you will need access to SAFE, and you get that with a WISE ID and through WISE Home. And in that report in February, you have your LEA determinations along with some other reports under ESSA. And that LEA determination report will tell you whether there are required actions or not. And there are certainly required actions under federal law that apply to independent charter schools as well as traditional school districts. And then again, several months later, we finalize those joint federal notification packets through by adding the racial equity in special education report. And I'll talk about that in that report in just a minute. But the key takeaway is that you will want to have a WISE ID and be able to access SAFE by February. So that's one task that I would add to your plate. When we look at those LEA determinations and we take all of that data, we crunch the data and we put every single LEA in the state, including charter schools, into one of 4 buckets. So overwhelmingly, LEAs meet requirements or need assistance for the first year, which serves as a watch year with no required action. So 366 of the 400 plus LEAs are in that meets requirements category. Less than 100, so about 78, 75 to 80 on any given year of LEAs need assistance for multiple years. And for charter schools, what that means is that charter schools are required under federal law to access technical assistance. And then 11 of our LEAs need intervention, and there right now there's one charter school in this category, and that needs intervention category is a category that if any LEA stays in that category for 3 years, they move to a corrective action plan. On the right, what you see is the distribution of determinations by CISA, with the darker areas of the map having fewer LEAs per capita or within a CISA compared to the lighter areas. So what you can see is in the southeast corner, which is CISA 1, and then CISA 2, which is that central southern district or CISA area, has the most LEAs per CISA compared to other CISAs around the state. The other area that federal law asks us to pay attention to is, in addition to outcomes for kids with disabilities, and that outcomes for kids with disabilities is really captured by the LEA determinations, is racial disproportionality within special education identification, discipline, placement, and placement areas. So what we know from the data and what we know from 30 years is that special education has become a place of segregation for Black and Brown students. And I remembered this when I started my career in special ed about 25 years ago. I was a paraprofessional in Southern California, and I walked into the classroom and there were no white kids. It was me as a white woman. I was a paraprofessional to a Hispanic man who was the special ed teacher, and then the room was filled with Black and Brown kids. And that is the experience for a lot of kids and a lot of teachers throughout the country, and in particular in Wisconsin as well. And so federal law wants us to pay attention to that. And because federal special education law at heart is a civil rights law, so federal special education wants us to pay attention to that. And so what that means is that we have criteria, and when LEAs meet this criteria, they are identified as having significant racial disproportionality. We asked we asked partners around the state, a lot of family members, a lot of parents of kids in special ed, teachers, administrators, community leaders, what they felt like was an appropriate threshold after which the state should intervene in a local education agency in terms of patterns based on race. And what they said overwhelmingly was when local education agencies have patterns where students based on race are twice as likely as their peers to be in special ed, either in a specific disability category like learning disabilities or EBD, or in special ed generally, that's a time they would like the state to take action. So we adopted that criteria. And we worked with the Harvard Civil Rights Project to develop robust criteria that really identifies that at a very stable level. What we didn't want is LEAs and in particular charter schools to be bouncing on and off the list because that was too much. That was really overwhelming and not a good use of resources and not supportive at all. And so our criteria says that if an LEA has 3 years of stable data where they've met minimum cell sizes, there's a risk of a student group of being identified more than twice than their peers in a particular disability or disability category area. And they're not decreasing that year over year. Then the required actions in federal law take place. So this is the place where independent charter schools are treated the same as other local education agencies at the district level in the state. And that means then that the LEA must conduct a root cause analysis. There must be an written improvement plan, budget and expend 25% of your IDEA funds, and also flag students in WISE data that receive services under those 25% of funds. And this is all a lot. So we have invested in free supports to support independent charter schools as well as LEAs in addressing these real needs that we have, that students with IEPs are not benefiting from the investments yet that we've made in schools, and they deserve to. And in particular in Wisconsin, Black and Brown students are not benefiting from the investments yet that we've made in our schools, and they deserve to. And so we have free supports that are available for improvement. This is not something required of charter schools, but certainly you can take advantage of these free supports. These are TA network teams that are across Wisconsin, and they will help you go through a continuous improvement process, a plan, do, study, act process with a team, and look at the data that either comes from the joint federal notifications or more up-to-date data if you all have it at the charter school level. And the TA networks will also help with any of the required actions under federal law, whether that's a submission of the plan or budgeting the 15%. We have folks at CISA 1 in particular. We have Linda Baldus, who's there and able to support you all in that improvement process. So I want to wrap this presentation by circling back to the beginning, which is really this idea of there are federal civil rights that are hardwired into special education law, and these are rights that are applying for students in charter schools just as much as they're applying for students in public schools that are next door. The intention, Congress's intention in that is that students, regardless of where they learn, have these civil rights protections that they carry with them like a backpack. And the invitation for us as educators is to ensure that our policies, procedures, and practices are accessed and benefiting students with disabilities, and in particular, Black and Brown students with disabilities, to the same extent that they benefit other students. And I'm going to wrap here and certainly invite questions or comments, connections, dissent, whatever you want to offer in the last few minutes before you all transition.
Thanks, Courtney. Does anyone have any questions for Courtney while we have her?
Yes, I have one. It's Courtney. The last slide around free supports for improvement. Typically, who is the contact to request those supports? And is there sort of a preference for in-person, virtual, and those types of options?
Great question. So you certainly can reach out to Linda Baldus at CISA One, and she would be able to, she often comes to the charter school around in a time frame that works for you all. So if you all have professional learning or professional development time, she can come to work with you all. If you have a leadership team and want to do some work this summer before the school starts, during breaks, Linda is really fantastic at doing support in person, virtual or hybrid. She'll come to you, or if you all want to get away, she can find a room at CISA One. So I would reach out directly to Linda. Thanks for that question.
And Kathy from CISA One, Kathy Kramer, is also on the call, so you might be able to connect with her more immediately and get some insight there. Any other questions for Courtney? Going once? Okay, well, Courtney, thank you for popping out of that important all leadership meeting to come chat with us.
I'm sorry I was late. Thanks for
It's
tapping me.
it's all good. Thank you for joining us, and we'll let you get back to it. And then for the rest of us, we're going to go into our break, and we will come back at 10:30 to hear from Works. So get up, stretch your legs, do whatever you need to do, and we will all come back at 10:30.
Resume. Perfect.
Speaking of recordings, before you begin, Dr. Hackett, I'm just going to drop the old LEA 101s, the link to where we keep them, in the chat. This is where the recordings end up, and also all the presentations. So we have some folks that aren't presenting this year, but did present last year, and you may want to go back and check old LEA 101s. The content is mostly the same, but it's still nice to have nonetheless in case something goes wrong with a presentation like last year. Our OEA folks had some trouble logging in, so they'll be back this year and they get a second bite at the banana. So that's where they all live, in case you were wondering.
All right, good. Well, it's 10:30, so I think I will take my turn at doing a screen share and talking through our resources from Works. All righty. Well, it's nice to see you all here today and those on the recording. I am Sarah Hackett, the director of the Wisconsin Resource Center for Charter Schools, and we are a statewide technical assistance center for charter school things, including leadership, governance board, classroom, design, all kinds of things like that. And then also for authorizers. And so recently we've really expanded our authorizing support as well. So I'm going to first dig in a little bit about what we do and then share a number of our resources generally and specifically for independent charters. So as I was saying, we just expanded our authorizing supports to build out the Center for High Quality Authorizing. And then we also have the Center for High Quality Charter Schools. And so under the Authorizing Center, we really try to create a deeper understanding among all of those entities in the state that can authorize charter schools and help them with all of their practices, including things like performance monitoring, school application review, really understanding their own purpose, mission, and vision, how they meet community needs as an authorizing entity, and then just kind of their legal responsibilities and best practices. One of the best practices that we've really gotten excited about is helping them with the mindset of supportive authorizing and thinking through how do they not only hold schools accountable, but think about being a partner in charter school, and just, sort of overseeing the existence of the charter schools in their community. Then we also have the Center for High Quality Charter Schools. And so, like I kind of rattled off a moment ago, it includes all of the things that are bulleted here on the slides. And one of the biggest projects I would say we've been doing there is the community needs analysis. And so, helping the schools as they kind of go through those early design stages, but then also schools who are further along or even currently in operation, think about doing those community needs analysis to understand how the work that they're doing or how the work that they're planning to do really fulfills the community need. Sorry about the glitch. Is it still doing it?
No, not anymore.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm glad to know
that's
it
good,
wasn't
I
just me.
guess. I'll keep the chat up and open in case it starts to happen again. Sorry about that. So our office works is here to build charter school capacity generally across the state. And so through having those two centers, we're able to really hone in on the different aspects and the different angles into charter schools. So those who are developing charter schools and then those who are overseeing them. But really, we're here to think about how charter schools are part of the public school landscape in the state and how they exist in all corners of the state and kind of all different kinds of charter schools exist across the state, and then kind of hone in on those different components that I shared a moment ago. We come at our work through a lens of support. And so, because we're a different office from DPI, we don't oversee any of the compliance. And so, we're there to come in and just kind of support wherever anyone is at in their journey and understand that everyone's doing their best to support kids. We know that everyone needs improvement. We don't come in with any kind of judgment or, like I said, any compliance concerns. And we know that together we're stronger. So we work toward just that continuous improvement lens, controlling what we can control and sharing as much as we can along the way. Our team is made up of 4 staff that are housed at CISA 9, which is in Tomahawk, though we work primarily remote and on the road a lot. And then we also work with a number of consultants across the state and country, as well as all the other CISA offices across the state as well. So we try to be as collaborative as possible and spread out not only our resources, but also share and disseminate through all these other channels to make sure that we're building up resources that are the highest quality and we can pull from national partners and share with national partners, and then also disseminate out to all of you. Like I shared the map a couple of minutes ago, we have charter schools all across the state, and I think it's really a strong component of the charter schools in our state that we do exist in all 12 CISAs. And so kids all across the state have access to not only the virtual charters, but also charters in every region. And we also have over 100 authorizers. I have to probably update this slide for the new year now that it's July again, but we have a slightly different number of charters and authorizers each year, but it's somewhere right around there. And that's a ton of school districts. So it's like 95 or 97 school districts. And then also our independent authorizers that oversee all of you guys. So our team is funded primarily through the Wisconsin Charter Schools Program grant, which is a federal grant that DPI received in 2023. And so a lot of our work comes directly through that contract with DPI to be able to offer everything that's on our website, all of our networks, most of our events, a good amount of our coaching. So we're available, and I'll have a slide in a couple minutes that kind of walks through all the different things that are already paid for through that grant and is support that's available for all of you. And then we also do engage in some fee-for-service contracts with schools or authorizers to do extended board work, leadership coaching, design of different things. And so I can kind of walk you through a couple of those options as well. So for the professional development that DPI funds through the Charter Schools Program grant, we're available to provide every governance board a governance board training every year. And so primarily those are all done via Zoom. Unless you want to do something longer, we can talk about what that might look like at your school, and then we could do something in person as well. We also do a leadership coaching session for every charter school leader across the state every year if they're interested. We'll do authorizer support trainings, going over their documents with them, meeting with them every year for every school. So these are not just the schools that have grants. This is available to all schools because of the grant that the state has. And then we're opening up those services to all schools. We do offer the same those same things to the schools that have grants as well. And then we do a lot of work with design teams. And so schools who are in those early stages and aren't open yet, we have kind of a cohort to walk design teams through. And several of you on the call I know have gone through that and have participated in some of those trainings with us. We do them all really customized because we know you're all at different points in your journey. And so, for those of you who have had boards in existence for 20 years, you might need a different kind of governance board training session than a board that's having its very first meeting. And we understand that. And so we have all the resources available. We'll meet with you and talk through what would be most beneficial for your board. And then similarly for like a leadership coaching session, it's not really a cookie cutter thing. We have a lot of resources and a lot of different angles to approach how to support charter school leaders. And so we want to be available to you for the thing that you really need and the thing that would be most beneficial to you. And then we have events. So I apologize, I'm kind of sitting on this slide for so long, but I have some more detailed slides towards the end. But just an overview of the events, we do monthly networks via Zoom for authorizers, governance boards, leaders, classroom, and design teams. And so you can feel free to attend those. They're like at set times every month, and you just sign up once, and then it's on your calendar for the year. And each month has a specialized topic, but then also we can troubleshoot different things that might be timely or needed from the people who attend. Then we also do annual events. So we have our summer summit, which is an in-person event, and then we also have a summer conference, which is an online event. And both of those are available at no cost to everybody in charter schools as well. And then, like I said, we'll do those service contracts as well. And so those tend to be things that can't be done in an hour, is maybe a good rule of thumb. So if you're thinking like we need to rewrite our whole charter contract because nobody's looked at it for 5 years and it's not really fitting anymore, and it just needs a lot of attention to kind of bring a group together and really redo that whole contract, that might require some additional time from our staff than just like an hour or a couple hours. And so if you're looking at having us come or do like a weekly meeting with you or something like that, then that would be something that your school could pay for and do a contract with CISA 9 with Works to be able to dig into something extensively deeper than some of those 1 hour type things. All right, I'm going to carry on because I have a little bit more detail in some of these next slides. So some of the ways that
It's being
work,
weird again.
thank you. I actually saw you flicker too, so am I back? No.
Maybe like stop sharing and start sharing again.
Yeah. Can you still hear me even when it's buggy?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine.
Okay. Let's try this again.
That's good.
Yeah?
Yep.
Looks
Okay.
good.
Thanks for the heads up. So I was just going to talk through some of the detailed examples of ways that we support the different entities of charter schools. And so you can review the slide in more detail, but a couple of other examples, like the one I gave about rewriting your charter contract, is something we do a lot. Another thing that we do a lot is talk through roles and responsibilities among all the parties of the charter school. So we might meet with the leader, but then also bring in the board and have like a board meeting, bring in the authorizer, potentially bring in like committees or volunteers or staff or any of these other players who have a role in the charter school operation and reporting structures, and talk about whose role is it to have, different reports at different times, or, fulfill different tasks at different times, and just have those healthy and tough conversations to really break up all the work. Another thing that we do that I've listed here is, well, did I list it here? Maintaining the unique charter school culture, which may also include, oh, I know, it's the last one here. It also is that alignment of practices and outcomes. And so those kind of go together, but like just really thinking about what is it that makes this charter school the charter school that it is, and what are its non-negotiables, and how does its existence kind of um, permeate into all those things. And so, getting a little bit more specific is like, if you're a Montessori school, how are you collecting data? How are you defining yourself? How are you purchasing things and reporting things through that lens of Montessori so that everything is really cohesive? How are you onboarding staff, onboarding leaders, just all the things that you do really want to stay true to that alignment. And so it might be culture, it might be practice alignment, it might be reporting. So they all kind of are glued together through that lens of like, who are you as a charter school and how do you exist? So those are the types of things we do. It goes on and on and on down to, the hairy details of policies and different things. But just to kind of give you an idea of reasons that you might want to reach out. So bringing it back up a couple of notches, everything that we do at Works is sort of through created with the pillars of our competencies at the heart. And so all of our authorizing support is structured around these authorizing competencies. And then each of those has a breakdown of proficiencies, and then each of those is linked to all of our tools and resources. And then our trainings are around these competencies. our networks are, all of our support, any contracts we do are all linked back to these competencies. Our website structure is even broken down by these as well. And so if you're wondering, in more detail, the types of things that we can do to support you or the types of support that maybe your school needs, it's actually a really nice way to kind of triage where you're at. If you're a governance board member, or if you sit down with your governance board president and go through this list of all these competencies listed under governance board, and then you can click to view the full list of all the competencies with the proficiencies. And then you might find things that you're like, oh, our board actually doesn't have that, or we really need that. Then you can ask and reach out for more information on that particular competency. And we really believe that all of this working in, if you can kind of really master all these competencies, you're going to have a really strong school, or certainly a better chance at having a really strong and sustainable school, knowing that you kind of have all this stuff handled. Here's actually the link to the competencies. It's on this next slide, because the other thing that we're doing with our competencies is called Charter PD. And I wanted to share this with you, that if you are engaging in professional development as a charter school and you want to do it using our competencies, you can choose a competency and meet with us and talk it through. What is your plan? How are you going to work on that competency? And then if you document your growth with us through uploading your evidence and just having a couple of check-in meetings to kind of show us what you're doing, we can be as involved as you want or kind of as hands-off as you want, but we want to be part of that journey with you to make those intentional goals and progress. And then you can earn badges with us in any of these competencies. So if you're a charter school leader who's really working on your culture this year and you want to set some goals and provide some evidence of how you've grown as a school and as a leadership team in your school culture, then you can actually earn the badge from Works in that area by presenting that information out. And then you can mentor others, and we'll compensate you for your time mentoring other leaders across the state in charter school culture, leadership culture. So we think we have kind of a cool structure there, and we've just been dabbling in it. It's kind of just in its early stages, but we really encourage you to participate in this process as well. Okay. I'm going to pause for a minute. And if anybody's out there in the chat, I wanted you to just have a chance to interact and celebrate something that's like a solution or a success that your team or your board have implemented this year. It's just nice to hear some positivity. And as we're talking about all the work there is to do and all the things there are to tackle, I'm going to go back to our competencies slide in case that maybe like sparks anything in your brain. Did you have some staff development that was really good? Did you have like a successful board retreat? Did you get authorized this year? Did you choose, some new curriculum or something that is going to be really helpful for your school? So I'm going to zip it for a minute, let you throw some things in the chat just to have a little flurry of celebrations, and then I'll continue on with some resources. And I know we're recording, so I will just let your celebrations continue to flow in. I'm not going to verbalize them because I know we are recording, but it's nice to just see a few things kind of come through around the good work that you're all doing. All right. I'm going to continue on and focus on a few independent charter school and local education agency type resources that we have specifically. And then I'll also put my slides in the chat for those who are here in person, and they'll be part of the collection on the DPI website as well. So, some of the most frequent things that I would say we hear from LEAs and ICSs specifically are contracting support to fulfill some of the district type duties. And so a lot of charter schools have found success working with their CISAs or co-oping together or actually working with other CISAs across the state because different CISAs at different times seem to have capacity to fill different things. And so the beauty of having 12 of them is that there are 12 different phone calls you can make if you're looking for different services. So that's been something that's often a need. We also see ICS is looking to access all available funds. And so our partners at CISA One, Kathy and Linda, have been super helpful in making sure that our independent charter schools are really accessing all the funds that are available to you and allocating things in the right way under the right codes at the right time and all that kind of stuff. So definitely make that phone call if you haven't already. Student transfer responsibilities can often be clunky because local school districts and private schools don't necessarily understand ICSs. And so helping them, you're sort of helping educate the local community through kind of requesting those files and having those student transfers. Sometimes it can be really helpful to just see how other schools are doing it and how to communicate. Yes, you're a public school. Yes, there's these obligations. Yes, they need to transfer the files, all that kind of stuff. Special ed and behavior plan obligations, we often get questions about. Policy support is another one that we're trying to really expand our support and make sure you have all the policies in place that you need. And then supporting your relationship and communication with your authorizer. It is kind of a different, the relationship has a different kind of feel to it than sometimes our district charters with their authorizing district. Your charter school and your authorizing entity, you have a different relationship. And so, kind of helping support both the authorizer and you with how to build and maintain that strong reporting relationship and supportive relationship is something we spend time on as well. So then I included a few links. We have a Welcome to Life as an LEA guide, which I'm always adding to. CISA One has a beautiful roadmap for accessing the special ed services and kind of the process of navigating special ed as an ICS. We have our policy manual, which we are continuing to expand. And then we have model contracts for 2R and 2X, although 2X kind of has their own with OEO. And then I also linked to some general charter resources that I think are, universal to all charter schools, but specifically I thought would be beneficial to you all. And then I wanted to just share, this is a little more time specific, but for those who are on the call today, we have our conference coming up next week. And so hopefully you can join us for one or both days of that. We have our networks that we're getting calendared for the next school year, so you can sign up for those. And also make sure you're on the lookout for CISA One announcing their independent charter school network as well. We have our email address just for support linked here, and it kind of lays out, it's actually a link to a page that lays out all of our services and then has our contact information as well. And then I'm closing with my contact info at the end. So I will stop sharing. I know that that was a lot. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Miss Sarah.
Hi.
You mentioned this combination of supporting charter schools as well as authorizers. Is that a conversation we would have individual with you around making sure we're not duplicating the offerings provided by our authorizer?
Yeah, I work closely with all the independent authorizers, and so we try not to kind of duplicate anything. And actually, we've often fulfilled requirements. So sometimes they'll say you have to have a required governance board training this year, and then we coordinate to fulfill those. And we can even group up and do multiple schools together if it makes sense, or, you know, so yeah, I think definitely we can have that conversation individually, but just sort of my general response is yes, we try to just all be really collaborative and make sure that you're not like ending up doing anything extra just to check a box or something. I have a cat invasion, sorry.
Thank you.
And also for the schools who have sub-grants on that topic too, like your technical assistance requirements for the sub-grants are the same as the technical assistance offerings that we have. So we try to just be really coordinated with DPI, with the authorizers, with the schools. And I also put in the chat, but to the recordings benefit, if you have any questions or follow up about the things that I presented and accessing the services and just general wonderings, you can email me with my first initial last name, shackett@works.org, or visit our website and you should be able to find ways to contact us as well. All right, I think that'll do. So then, Alex, are we back to you?
We are back to me. Let's see if I can't
Perfect.
learn from my mistakes and share my screen immediately. Okay. Now if I do from beginning, can you all see it? Is it right?
It is not. I still see the thing with the next
Okay, now
slide.
what if we do
So
display settings and swap it? How about
that,
now?
yes.
Okay, cool.
Hmm.
Okay. So once again, everyone, thank you for being so flexible. That's sort of the theme of being a independent charter school when you're a local education agency. You've got to make do with what you got. And we've got Zoom. Okay, so independent charter school basics, as we were discussing, all charter schools are exempt from all portions of the statute where they're not expressly named, and independent charter schools become their own LEA. There's a difference in how you get paid, but not a difference in what you get paid. And at a high level, what does it mean to be an independent charter school? That means that you have statewide enrollment. So if you were a district authorized charter school, you would have to, your students, if they lived in Kenosha, for instance, and your school was in Racine, then they would have to open enroll into the Racine School District and then enroll into that charter. Because you're your own statewide LEA, your students don't have to go through open enrollment. Consequently, I can't make you do this, but I firmly request that you not refer to your enrollment period as open enrollment. That confuses a lot of folks. We end up getting requests to enroll in independent charter schools through our open enrollment team, which share a branch on our DPI family tree, but that's a whole other team. So folks are getting passed around and it causes frustration and confusion for parents. So any other term you want to call the period during which anyone can apply to your school, call it that. But open enrollment is our thing. So try to avoid calling it that. Independent charter schools cannot be a virtual school. So there is a statutory prohibition on independent charters doing virtual instruction. Now, post-COVID, we've sort of determined as we move into this brave new world that there is some flexibility for independent charter schools to offer virtual instruction on a limited basis. If you are thinking about offering a virtual class, please reach out to me and I will help you navigate whether or not it's a permissible virtual option. But as a general rule, no virtual instruction in an independent charter school. So because you're not authorized by a district, you operate without district supports. So that means there's no one in the Education Support Center doing your back office work. That's where a lot of the partners that you've seen today, the CISAs, for example, they can be tapped to help you support that work. And I really do encourage you to reach out. And then all those reporting obligations that districts have and civil rights responsibilities fall on you as the school. So that's a lot to take on. To be an independent charter, there's a lot of benefits to doing it, but there's also a lot of obligations, and that's what I'm here to help you with. So we're going to talk about some real important stuff here. What do we get paid and how do you get paid and what are you supposed to do and how do you know you're going to do it? So the first thing is the payment amount for independent charter schools is set by statute. It's a dollar amount determined by the adjustment to the revenue limit, the sum of the calculation of changes in state categorical aid, and the sum of the amount paid in the prior year. So the estimated amount for this year, the estimated amount for 25-26 is $12,369. I emphasize that it's estimated because the budget was signed late this year. So we're pretty certain what the amount is going to be. It may change up or down a little bit, based on statutory changes, but I would budget for $12,369 this year. You're also eligible for some, but not all, categorical aid. So for example, you're eligible for special education categorical aid. If you go back to LEA 101, way back in 2021, we have a presentation on how that's calculated. We haven't been able to get on Rachel Zellmer's very, very busy calendar since then. So please go back and check that one out. Per pupil categorical aid, you're not eligible for. So don't count on that. That's what your per pupil aid is for. All independent charter schools are eligible for the same categorical aid. This goes back to that difference between 2R and 2X. There is none when it comes to what you're getting paid. You're also eligible for title funding, IDA funding, SPED funding, food service transportation, all those sort of various grants. You as an LEA are eligible for them. There's one in particular that is a CTE grant, and you're not eligible for that. We're working on trying to get that remedied. If you come across grants that are in statute that go to school districts, that does not include independent charter schools. If it goes to LEAs, it does go to independent charter schools. If you find one in statute and you think, boy, it sure would be nice that we were eligible for that grant, but it says districts, please let me know because we can shake that tree, and that's something that we can sort of advocate for getting charters eligible for those grants. We've done it before and we hope to be able to do it again. Okay, so how do y'all get paid? There are 4 reports. 3 of them you're going to send to me. The 4th one is going to come from your auditor. So there's a preliminary pupil count report, a 3rd Friday pupil count report, and a 2nd Friday pupil count report, and then a membership audit. The preliminary pupil count report, which is going to be due in September, the very beginning of September, is based on your enrollment on that day, on September 1st, your entire enrollment. And from that, you'll receive a payment. And then the 3rd Friday is based, and 2nd Friday is based on your attendance on that day. And there's some leeway as to how you can count kids. You can read all about it in the payment letter. But those payments are going to be generated based on those reports. So you get paid 4 times a year by statute in September, December, February, and June. That June payment is based on your membership audit, which is submitted to us by your independent auditor. if you're a new charter school, if you're a new independent charter school opening this year, this is your notice. You're going to need to have an auditor, an independent auditor, both to do your finances and to do a membership audit. It's incredibly important that all of those things, all four of those reports be submitted on time because it holds up the whole train if someone submits it late, particularly those September and membership audit. And the January one, I have a little bit more room, but not a lot. So you're going to get this report. It's going to come on a big Excel file. And the Excel file is very unwieldy, it's very ugly, and it's pretty simple to use, but there's a lot of columns. Do not look at that thing and say, boy, I think that I can do this better. I'm going to tinker around with it, and DPI is going to love that. They're going to look at this and say, this is great. Don't do that. There's a lot of hidden columns in that report that we use on the back end to submit other reports to other folks and other entities that y'all are not privy to. But we use that data. It comes all from that Excel file. So please just fill it out. It basically is going to ask you for the student, the grade, what their resident district is. If you have multiple schools under your portfolio. So for example, if you're Rocket Ship has a couple of different schools. It'll ask you which Rocket Ship do these students attend. And then you'll submit it via Kiteworks. So we'll get to that in a second. So the payment dates, and this is relatively new. It started last year and it's going to continue on for the rest of the time that I work here. You are going to budget when you submit your budgets, or not submit, but when you plan your budgets, plan for the last Monday of September, December, February, and June. In years prior, we would have said this is going to get paid on December 2nd. Not doing that anymore. The last Monday, payments always come out on a Monday, and they have to come out by statute in these 4 months. We're doing that because a couple of years back, there was a massive snowstorm that covered the whole state, threw everybody off, and we were hustling to get these payments out on time because we had already committed to paying y'all on February 12th or whatever the case it is. And so by saying the last Monday, we give ourselves some breathing room. It may not be the last Monday. It may be the second Monday, and then that will be gravy. But you won't be sitting around on the third Monday wondering where your payment is because you'll have budgeted for it to come out on the fourth Monday. All the other payments are based on what you upload from your SIS into the Y systems, and we can talk about that. In fact, we will talk about that later on. So those reports go to Kiteworks. Kiteworks is our file sharing system. When you start working on those reports, if you're a new school, if you are not a new school, you already know this. It contains a whole bunch of student identifying information, their name, their grade, their district. We don't want that getting passed around email through Outlook. So you upload it to Kiteworks, and then I go and pull it from Kiteworks and save it to our systems. You're going to want to spend a lot of time and effort, as much time and effort as you possibly can, making sure that the resident district is correct, because that is used to determine title allocations, where we take title funding from and send it off to you. If you mess up on it, I have to go back in May and fix it. And it's the most tedious, frustrating part of my job. Every time I'm here in July, you know it's because it's getting better every year, but there have definitely been years where I think, okay, this is the last May that I'm ever going to be doing this. I'm going to go and become a cheesemonger instead of going through these reports. I am very lucky that folks are getting better at this. There have been many conversations I have where I say, okay, let me show you what it looks like to have to go through on the back end and do this. And then next year, those schools have absolutely no resident district changes. And I love to see that because that tells me that you are hearing my frustration. That being said, I know that there are some mistakes that happen, and Students come in late and they have to be added. That's fine. I get it. But it is accurate as you can possibly get it. It saves us at the department, not just me, but my colleagues as well, a lot of time and effort on the back end. So you'll submit it to Kiteworks on time, and you will presumably, I have trouble with it every year, but you should get an email that says that it's been submitted. If not, you'll hear from me on the day that it's due to say, hey, can you please upload this? And then you'll say, oh, I thought it was, and we'll just get it resolved and we'll all move on with our lives. So who are our points of contact here at the department? So everyone at the department wants to see you all succeed because your success means that students are succeeding, and that's why we all get into this business to begin with. So where you have heard from folks here at DPI or on the program calendar, there's a name associated with the thing that you're supposed to be doing. Reach out to them. They're going to be the subject matter experts. Otherwise, please reach out to me first. My knowledge is wide, but not deep, so I will be able to help you navigate the department and find the answers that you need. What I really do not want you doing is spending your time trying to hunt down an answer to some question when I could be paid to do that for you. So I want you all to be focused on educating students, and I will focus on helping you navigate your bureaucratic burdens. That's literally my job. And if you have a question and you are trying to hunt down an answer and you spend more than 10 minutes trying to find an answer, say, screw that, I'm just going to email Alex Robertson and have him do it for me instead. And then I will skitter off into the DPI stratosphere and try to find you that answer. And I will bug people for you time and time again because I'm a state employee and they can't fire me for being annoying. So let me annoy them on your behalf if you're not getting responses. You should also, of course, have a board attorney. You're running a school district, a little mini school district, and so please have an attorney that helps you stay in compliance with the law, and you should also always keep your authorizer informed. I think I'm almost out of time, so let me fly through this. You're going to get emails from the Department of Public Instruction. The ones that come from me will go to anyone and everyone that you want added to my list. I do not sort my list based on job. I sort my list based on the category of people I need to contact. So if you tell me I want our nutrition person and our CEO and our sped teacher on a list, they're going to get all the emails from me that have to do with everything because I'm not taking the time to sort through it. All the other emails from the department are going to go to like one person, and that's your district administrator on the school directory. So please make sure that that is up to date because that's who folks are going to email. A lot of our stuff lives on the internet. You'll get emails from me, so many emails from me when they get posted, and you can refer to that all the time. They're pretty useful. And here are some final thoughts. So I don't want you navigating the bureaucracy. That's why I get paid to do it. I'm not trying to play gotcha. I want to help you succeed. So please, though it can be frustrating, sometimes just presume that I'm just trying to help clear things up. I can deal with bad news. I cannot deal with surprises. I absolutely do not want to read about something bad that's going on at your school in the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Please tell me first, because then I can turn around and give everyone else at the department a heads up that something's happening. So I want to see you all succeed. What I really want more than anything is to sit at this desk and read my Flannery O'Connor book and not have to worry about anything at all, waiting for the telephone to ring. So if I don't think about you, that's great. That's what I want. I am not sitting here trying to find ways to get y'all in trouble. I'm not sitting here trying to find ways to needle you or find ways that you're not in compliance. I really, truly just want to sit here and read a book. And so when you get an email from me, just know, hey, this guy's just trying to help us stay in compliance. I think that's it. My contact information is at the bottom of my email address. If you want to know my telephone number, both you and I are going to have to go to the bottom of my email address to figure out what my telephone number is. So that should tell you how much I don't like answering the telephone, and you should just email me instead. I am a millennial after all. Unless anyone has any questions, I think I can pass it on over to Adam, who I know is here. So I'll give it a minute or two for questions. We also have some time at the end that I'll be here for. I don't see anything. Let me stop sharing. Okay, cool. Adam, are you on and able to share your screen?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes, thank you, Alex.
Okay, I'll pass it over to you.
All right, perfect. Let me see how I want to share my screen here. I'm not a big Zoom person, so just give me a moment here.
I know I've presented like a perpetual challenge to all of our DPI staff today by having us on Zoom.
Oh, it's fun though. I'll figure it out. Okay, I think. Oh no, that's not it. It's this. Okay, hold on. I think.
I'll just chime in for all of our schools and tell you that we too work on a tight budget and we don't have Zoom money here at the Department of Public Instruction. So we are Teams folks because we are cheapskates. So this is a pleasure and a burden for us to try to figure out Zoom.
Perfect. Okay. I think you can see it?
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Adam Miller. I'm on the customer services team, which has been renamed partner support. So we're in the process of rebranding. So if you're reaching out or looking at materials on our website and it says reach out to customer services, it's also partner services now. So we're kind of making that transition. So I am the team trainer. On the customer services team, just a little about us. Well, the partner services team now, we have 4 folks dedicated to help tickets, and we have 2 folks that help with escalated help tickets. Okay, so we're a relatively small team. So when you see start a help ticket on the website, which we'll show you here in a little bit, that comes to our team, one of the 4 people here, and from there, we kind of work it, and we usually get back to it within 24 to 48 hours. So perfect. Well, let's jump into so WISE data. When you report your data, it's going to be in your student information system, which will then report to WISE data. So we'll talk about the flow here in a little bit, but first let's talk about what WISE data is. So WISE data is a multi-vendor open data collection system that allows school districts, charter schools, and choice schools to submit data to DPI through their student information system or SIS or vendor. So basically, WISE data allows you as a school to send that data to the state from your SIS. You'll notice that at the state, we've got multiple names for things. You've probably got multiple names for the same things. So when we say SIS, vendor, or student information system, they all refer to the same entity. So again, really the goal of WISE data is to make the data reporting process as easy as possible for you. So WISE data houses data such as enrollment data, attendance, special education, discipline, graduation. So there's a lot of data in WISE data. WISE data is then reported, or the data is reported to WISE data by linking itself to a WISE ID. So a WISE ID is a unique identifier assigned to each student and follows them through their K-12 education in Wisconsin. Teachers are also issued a WISE ID. In the event a former student would become a teacher, they would actually have the same ID. WISE data links to WISE ID to ensure data is attached to the appropriate person. WISE ID is a number, but it is also a system. So we're not really going to dive into the WISE ID system today. We're just going to talk about WISE data a little bit. In addition to WISE ID, WISE Data links to other systems, such as the Wisconsin Immunization Registry, also known as WIR, WIR. So WISE applications. Accessing any WISE application, including WISE Data, you'll need either a Google Enterprise account or a WAMS ID. It is possible to have them use both, but only if you log in with the WAMS ID first. So instructions on setting these up can be found at WISE Home. So we'll take a look at WISE Home here in just a moment. When creating a WISE ID, make sure that you use your school email address, as this helps with data privacy and school security in the event you leave your district. You can request access to WISE applications by submitting your request in WISE Home. Instructions are linked on WISE Home. Access to WISE applications is granted at the district level by your application administrator or your district security administrator, which we call a DSA. So when you create a request for access to one of the WISE applications, it's routed to them for approval. Once you're assigned a user role, you're able to see your WISE applications when you log into WISE Home. In the event that you're not seeing a WISE application in WISE Home, reach out to your application administrator or your DSA. Chances are that request is still held up by them. If you're not sure who your application administrator is or your DSA is, you can always reach out to us on the partner support team, and we can point you in the right direction who that person is for you. So we're just going to pull up WISE Home here quick. So this is really the page that you want to save to log into any WISE application. Okay. When you click WISE, I'm gonna bring up the UAT site here, so this will take just a moment. But when you click this, it'll take you to the actual login page. Now, we don't want you to save the actual login page itself. Doing so creates some problems with cookies and all that fun stuff behind the scenes, and you might experience some issues. So save this page and then just click WISE Home to log in. So that's going to bring you to this page. So this is the actual login page. Again, you can use Google or you can use WAMS if you've logged into WAMS first. Again, the Google Enterprise account is not a personal account, so it's through the school or district. So we'll click login here, and we'll show you a little bit about WISE Data. So this is WISE Home. Okay, so here's the request access button. You'll see the different WISE applications you have access to in WISE Home. Most likely, for folks on this call, you're going to have WISE Data, probably the EdFi one too. You'll have WISE ID. You may also have WISE Dash. Unfortunately, WISE Dash doesn't show up in our test environment here, so I can't show you what that one looks like. So next, though, okay, so there's different user roles too. So when you're requesting access, check out the user roles. You'll have access to the slide deck. Our website is actually very easy to, well, it can be very easy to find things. It can also be very difficult to find things. So like Alex said, if you're looking for something for more than 10 minutes, you can also put in a help ticket. We'll try to find it for you and point you in the right direction. But up here, just type in WISE user roles or WISE secure roles. If you're not sure what to select, we can also point you in that direction if you point in a help ticket. So you just want to make sure that you have the correct access to view the data that you need to. Okay, and then on WISE Home, here is the request access to a WISE application. So you can click this. It's got instructions on how to fill these requests out. So very, very helpful. Okay. Reporting expectations. So know what your reporting expectations are. So as an independent charter school, you are responsible for reporting your own student data to WISE Data. Okay. If you're ever not sure, reach out. If you're not sure if you're supposed to be reporting something, we'd rather have you reach out to us than not report it. As you'll see here in a few moments in the WISE Data system, it's pretty intuitive. It'll show you what, it might show you that something's wrong or there's warnings. So we'll take a look at that. But first here, this is the flow of data. Okay, so you are the LEA school or district, and you are going to enter your information into your student information system, which again is a SIS or vendor. Okay. Once this information is in your student information system, it is then going to send data to the WISE data portal. Okay. So this is a key point here. We do not pull or take data from your system. You have to send it to the WISE data portal. What this means is that if there is something incorrect or missing in the WISE data portal, you need to go back to your student information system to work with them on fixing it. As you correct errors and warnings and correct data, you're going to do all of that in your student information system, and then that information will then be sent to the WISE data portal. So the WISE data portal is a read-only application. It is to help you view errors and warnings that might and issues with your data, so that you can go back to your student information system and correct it and then resend it to WISE data. Okay, so it's just very important to understand the flow of data here. Okay, so it's coming from your system to ours. Okay, so once we have the data in WISE data, we will validate it. Our system will validate it. And then the errors and warnings will register. Now, from the WISE data portal, it will flow into WISE Dash for districts. WISE Dash for districts is a different program. We're not really going to go into that one today. We do have some trainings coming up, and we'll talk about when those are coming up, so you can get more information on that. So the flow of data from WISE data portal then into WISE Dash for districts. And then from WISE Dash for districts, it goes into WISE Dash public portal. Okay, so in between WISE Dash for districts and WISE Dash public portal, some of the information is scrubbed, so it is there's no PII in it. Okay, so we remove that because the WISE Dash public portal is just that, it's public. Anybody can access it and view it. That means students, parents, members of the press, people from other school districts, could be the feds, could be somebody else from the state of Wisconsin. It's just that, it's public. Okay, so as you're working through these, if you are in WISE Dash for districts and see something wrong, always go back to the prior source to see what might be wrong. Okay, so if something's wrong in WISE Dash for districts, check in the WISE data portal first, look for the error and the warning that's related, and then go back to your student information system and fix it. There are three things that you should talk to your student information system about sorting out. The first is, when do they send current school year data to the WISE data portal? Okay, a lot of the student information systems will send the data in the afternoon. Our system runs a validation around 5 p.m. In the afternoon. So that's for current year data. So ask them when the current year data flows. The second is, when does prior year data flow? With the reporting in the WISE data system, we have 2 snapshots during the year that we're going to collect a large amount of information. One of them is in December, and one of them is in May. Okay, so as you get closer to these, you're going to be reporting some data from last year's school or last year's school year in this December's snapshot. Okay, so you will be potentially, you might not be this year because you're new, but find out how and when they do that. So when does current year data flow? When does last year's school year data flow? And then also find out how to manually push data. Okay, there'll be instances where maybe you're working in the WISE data portal in the morning, you're working on cleaning up data, and now you want to see if that data is going to correct some of those errors and warnings. So you may not want to wait until the end of the day for an automatic push of the data. So just find out how to manually push data. Okay, that'll be very helpful in those situations where you're working on clearing it up. Okay, so that's the kind of the flow there of the data. So we're just going to take a quick look here at the WISE data portal, and then I'll just wrap up with a couple of important dates, and we'll talk about just some help tickets and how to contact the customer services team. So I'm just going to grab a test school here. A lot of times when we do these live demos, we always pick Sun Prairie. So if you're familiar with the Sun Prairie School District, or you have students going there, this is all fake data, just for training purposes and testing purposes. So when you're in the WISE data portal, always make sure you're in the correct year. Okay, the school year displays up here in the green, and it also displays here. Okay, also, this is kind of a condensed version of, we have a new user training monthly, and we have some pretty big trainings coming up. So again, this is just kind of to quickly acclimate you to what the system looks like. So we won't be going too in depth here. So a couple things to point out, just make sure you're always in this correct school year. Okay, you'll notice that there are 3 school years in here currently. We have the new school year, which just rolled over into the system in July. We have last school year, and then we have the school year from a couple years ago. This is by the design. Again, if you're newer schools, you don't have to worry about this. So you can ignore it for this year. And then coming down here, it'll show you how many total students you have, how many students you have with errors or warnings attached to them. There's a nice visual representation of the amount of errors and warnings. Down here at the bottom is the data quality indicator. This is really nice for kind of just spot checking to make sure your data is flowing properly. Here you can see the number of students in each grade. So if you know you have 5 4th graders and it's only showing 1, that's a good indicator that the data is not flowing properly from your student information system. Okay, so great way to kind of just visually gauge that. So we're going to take a look at the validation messages page here. So this is the page that you are going to spend a majority of your time in the WISE data portal. Okay, so about 85% of the time you're in this system, this is where you're going to be. Again, you can see the school year here. Make sure that's correct. You can search by student using that WISE ID that we talked about earlier. You can also search by a particular school type or a particular school. So here on the left, so validation messages, that's what we call errors and warnings. It's kind of a catch-all term. Okay, so if you're in a training and you hear someone refer to validation messages, or if they're referring to them as errors and warnings, in the WISE data portal, we're referring to validation messages. You have 3 types of messages here on the left. You have critical, regular errors, and warnings. Okay, try to prioritize them. The critical are the most important. They are going to stop the flow of data to the next source. So if it's a critical error, it's not going to flow to the next source, which again is WISE for districts. If it is a regular error, this data is still going to flow to WISE for districts. So the error, so the data that's in WISE may be incorrect. Okay, so it's very important that you correct these. And then coming down to warnings, warnings are just that we see something in the data that we don't think is correct, or it's a little bit different than we expect to see, but it could be correct. Okay, so in that event, you are just going to acknowledge the warning, or you'll have a acknowledge or unacknowledge box. Because we're in the test site, we don't have that here. So one thing I want to point out, and the biggest thing as you are learning this system and working through it, is we've done a lot of work to kind of help you figure out how to fix these errors and warnings. So I'm just going to take a look at one here. So hard field missing, exit type, or exit date. So as you're looking at these errors and the warnings, these little blue triangles are actually present in a lot of our WISE systems. If you see one of these, click that, and it's going to expand it with more information. Okay. So here we can see all of the students that are related to a particular error or warning. Okay, so required field is missing. So none of these students here have exit type or date. Okay, so it's going to let you know that the students, which students are involved. If it's a school-wide error, example, so this is a warning down here. So it's no enrollment for the school. We can click that little button. It's going to list the schools that are affected by this. Okay, so always hit these drop downs to take a look. The next thing you want to look at for an error warning, this little symbol here is going to give you a longer explanation. So this is what we call the short texts. We are working on rewording a lot of these. Some of these are a little confusing, and we're getting a lot of feedback from folks like you. So we're collecting that, and we're in the process of updating a lot of these. But click the little arrow here. It's going to give you a little bit longer explanation. That's what we call the long text. Okay, so you got the drop-down arrow, you have the information button, and then you have a little blue hyperlink here for the error code. This is going to take you to the KBA, or knowledge-based article. These are generally going to walk you through how to fix the error warning or what data should be corrected or added. Okay. Remember, once you figure this out, though, you have to go back to your student information system to make the changes there. Okay. So as you kind of start your role and start getting errors and warnings, again, click the little drop downs, click the links, and take a look at the information we have here for you. These will also link out to other DPI web pages sometimes. They may be kind of like a short educational video on how to fix an error. It might be what we call a mini tutorial, which is just step by step that walks you through what to do. So we've kind of compiled a lot of information to help you figure out what the errors and the warnings are. However, that being said, you'll find yourself in situations where you're going to want to submit a help ticket. So we're going to jump into that here. We won't go through a lot of these. Again, we cover these pretty in depth at some of our upcoming trainings, and we do have a new user training once a month on the first Wednesday, and then we'll show you where to find that. But one thing I want to show you here, as you're kind of setting up your courses and gearing up for the year, under resources up here, we're going to click that, and then we're going to click courses. Okay, so we have all of the DPI courses, or you may call them classes, or rosters, a lot of different names, but they're all listed here. Okay, so as you're setting up courses and you're looking for the DPI codes or the roster codes to set things up, they're all listed here. We also have them on a on one of our websites on a spreadsheet. This has been requested for a while, so we've put that in. So again, to find this, we're just, when you first log into Wise Data, you're going to be on the data quality or homepage, and then we're going to click resources up at the top, and then we're going to click courses, and then this is where the courses are. So kind of as you're getting ready for the new year, take a look here. It's going to be a lot easier to find those courses. Okay, so that's the main thing I wanted to show you in with the portal here today. Again, we'll go into more in-depth training in the next couple of weeks and months. All right, so let's jump back here, and we're going to talk about help tickets. So there's a couple ways you can get to help ticket. If you're in the system, just go ahead and click help up at the top. And that's going to bring you to the WISE portal tutorials. So it's going to have some information on where you can go to find some helpful information. But here's the help ticket. And I'll bring you here. So this is our help ticket. It's very straightforward. One thing I want to point out is that it says school type. This is a required field. You'll notice that there are 3 options here. So the only option that you should be selecting as a charter school is public, okay? Don't select private school, don't select not a school. Anyone in the state or country or really anywhere can submit a help ticket if they find this on our website. What that means is we get a lot of tickets from school districts, schools, and parents, press, different states asking how we're doing things. The quickest way for us to help answer one of your help tickets is that you select public school and then you select your school. Okay. Now, in the event that something's not loaded in here and you're not showing up, then yes, select not a school. That's okay. Application, select the type of application you're using. Most likely it's probably at this time going to be like Wise Data or Wise ID. Just, we can change this. If need be, we can update that. First and last name, it does ask for phone number. I will say, like Alex told you earlier, a lot of us millennials, we don't want to really be on the phone, but also it really comes down to we only have 4 folks really doing the tickets. So if you do ask for a phone call, put it in the description. Just say, hey, I'd like to chat with somebody about this. Our process is we're going to reply to your ticket with all of the information you need about how to view the error, fix the error, whatnot on the WISE data side of things. Okay. And then we may ask you if you still want a phone call. And then we may just set up a Teams meeting. That way we can screen share to show you things if need be. Okay. But the phone number, you don't have to list it. It just needs numbers in there, so you can put all 1s and all 5s. The hardest thing on this page is probably just going to be the robot code at the bottom. Okay, so very straightforward. When you contact us about a help ticket, okay, if it's about a student, if it's about a particular error or warning, always include the error or warning code. Okay, that's that 4-digit code, and always include the student's WISE ID number. Okay, what we don't need is we don't need the student's name. We don't need their date of birth. Okay, you may also notice that if you're trying to include a screenshot or a hyperlink in the ticket, it's not going to let you do that initially. Okay, so when you put in a help ticket, again, include the error code, include the WISE ID for the student. And then if you have a link or a screenshot, just let us know you have that. Just say, hey, I have a link to this DPI webpage that's not working, or I have a screenshot of something that looks doesn't look correct in WISE data or WISE Dash or somewhere else. Just let us know. Once we reply, our security parameters will then allow you to add a link or a screenshot. Okay, so it's a security thing to help protect DPI. It's not anything wrong on your end. So just keep that in mind. So we got a couple minutes here. WISE events calendar. This is going to have the different important dates, trainings coming up. We try to list the different trainings that are going around in the state, whether it's DPI, it could be a vendor, it could be CISA. If somebody gives us those dates, we're going to try to put it on this calendar. Okay. There are 2 dates that I want to show here to you. So if we're looking at August, it is August 19th and August 21st. Okay. And then here's that new user training. So every Monday, every first Wednesday of the month, we do a new user training. We're going to walk through tab by tab in the WISE data portal. Okay, so it's a lot to take in. So I'm kind of giving you the basic quick overview, but we're going to really dive into it here. This same training will also be repeated in our new user training day. This is something that is new this year. And we're really going to dive into each of the WISE, a lot of the WISE applications, and we're going to do demos. And we're going to show you how to use those. Okay, that's coming up on August 19th. And then on the 21st, we have our 3rd annual back to school kickoff. This is something this is the 3rd year we've done it. We have a lot of departments and SMEs that are on this. And but we have a lot of good information set up for you. So please join us if you can. Take a look at that. Both of those are there. And then just some other helpful resources for you. So WISE training, if you're looking for items to learn or kind of advance yourself on some different programs or whatnot, WISE stuff, just type in WISE training. If it's not there, I am the team trainer. So if you are looking for something for training and can't find it on our website, come to the help ticket under the application, select other, and then just put attention Adam. And I will find you that training. It may not be me or my department that helps with it, but I will reach out to the correct person or correct team. So that's what I have here for you today. Hopefully we will hear or see you on one of the new user trainings or our August trainings coming up on the 19th